Have you ever felt guilty for saying no? Have you ever, protected your peace and then felt like you had to apologize for it later? If so, this conversation is definitely for you. Grab a snack and come on back, because today we're talking about why so many of us feel guilty for setting healthy boundaries and why we don't have to anymore. See you on the other side. Why do we feel guilty in the first place? I think many of us, especially women, we were taught that being kind meant always being available to everyone, always saying yes, always answering the phone, always explaining ourselves, always making room for everybody else. And somewhere along the way, we confused kindness with unlimited access. Years ago, if the phone rang, we answered it, right? Today, no ma'am. If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail. Technology taught us something, didn't it? Without us even realizing it. Every phone has an accept button, right? You see that little green button there? Are you gonna answer? Are you gonna answer? And every phone has a red decline button. We understand that with our phones, right? We just forget that we have those same choices in our lives. We have those same choices in our lives. We can either hit that green button and accept the BS, or hit the red button and say, no, thank you. Not doing it. If somebody knocks on my door unexpectedly, I don't answer it. Absolutely not, I'm not. I don't answer my door because I wasn't expecting company. I wasn't expecting you. So I don't answer my door. And then one day I realized I don't have to answer every knock in my life either. We don't have to do that. Every criticism isn't an emergency. It's not. Every opinion isn't an assignment. Absolutely not. Every invitation isn't an obligation. That part, right? Just because someone knocks, it doesn't mean that they belong inside. It doesn't mean that at all, beloved, at all. Have you ever noticed your body answers before your mouth does? If you've noticed that, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. The phone rings and immediately it's like, right? When you have that, your shoulders tighten. Your shoulders are like this, right? It feels like they're right here, up under your ears. Your stomach takes that drop. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that, beloved. If answering every call, every text, every request, every demand keeps your nervous system feeling like it's running from a pack of lions, you can live that way if you choose, right? I decided I didn't want to anymore. I don't want to do that. I don't rush for those things. I don't rush for those things at all. This week's conversation was inspired by the Book of Boundaries by Melissa Urban. And if you don't know Melissa Urban, she's also one of the founders of the Whole 30 Plan, the Whole 30 Diet. I'm sure you've heard of that. And this book, along with the Let Them theory that we talked about last week, these are like the Bible to me, okay? They go hand in hand. If you buy one and you don't have the other, or you have this one and you don't have this, I suggest you get them. I suggest you have them both. They're both amazing in their own way, and they both are talking about boundaries. They're talking about that, right? What I loved wasn't that it gave me permission to build walls. Not that. We're not talking about putting up walls and things like that. We're not talking about that at all. it reminded me that healthy boundaries aren't walls at all. They're not. They're decisions, right? They're choices. They're how we decide who has access to our lives. Who has access to our lives? You know, you don't want to answer every call, then don't. You don't feel like talking to somebody is sucking the life right out of you and the energy, then get rid of that person. Do it. Do it. You know, I think this entire conversation, it comes down to two words. For me, that's intentional access. Intentional. And that's really what boundaries are. They're intentional access. They're not about shutting people out. We're not trying to do that. We're not shutting people out of our lives. They're about deciding who gets access to us. Who gets access to your peace, to your time, right? Time is money. To your joy. Who has access to that? To your healing and to your purpose. Not everybody deserves access to that. Not everybody does. Not everybody deserves access to you, beloved. And once you learn that, right? And you start using the boundaries, right? See the limits that will set you free. That's what's in this book. Set the limits that will set you free. Once you see that, right? That you can set those limits that will set you free, you'll never turn back. You will never turn back. I didn't suddenly, learn boundaries after 60, right? I didn't. I'd been learning them for years, for decades, since my 40s, right? What changed, though, after I turned 60 was that I stopped feeling guilty about protecting my peace. I don't feel guilty about it anymore. No is a full sentence. I don't feel guilty. Like, absolutely not. I don't. I don't have to entertain you if I don't want to. I don't have to do that. I really don't. And I don't feel guilty at all. There's an emotional payoff here, right? Boundaries don't make our lives smaller. They don't. They protect the life we've worked so hard to build. The life that we have worked so hard to build. That's what these boundaries protect. And once you start setting boundaries, little by little, take baby steps, right? Baby steps. The phone rings, you get that pit in the bottom of your stomach, and that, everything starts to well up in your heart. You feel tense and tight. That is your nervous system telling you that you need to set a boundary and not to answer that phone call or not to answer that door, right? Not to answer that email, not to pay attention to any of that, right? And there are ways to block things. Like for me, right? I have so many people that I have blocked in my life, and especially off of my emails, right? But they still come through. Guess what I did? I blocked the spam now. Now, if an email comes in and it goes to the spam, it's deleted immediately. I don't even see that, and I don't even have to bother, right? There are ways to keep those triggers away from you. If there's someone in your life who becomes angry every time you protect your peace, then remember this. Healthy people may not always like your boundaries, right? They may not always like your boundaries, but they will respect them because they don't have a choice. They will respect them. And people who only benefited from your lack of boundaries often reveal themselves the moment you finally have some. And then you're going to know, right? Once you set those boundaries, oh, they're going to know. They're going to know. I see you. You know that I do. And I'm so proud of you for coming back week after week. This is episode 3 already in our Sunday book club. And I'm loving it so far. Loving it so far. And I thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. Always, I thank you so much. I thank you so much. And just remember that this is a conversation about a book, right? It's a conversation about a book. We're not reading the whole book. You don't have to go out and buy this book if you don't want to. I advise that you do because it's a good read. I love self-help books, so this is a good book. But this is a conversation about a book. That's the difference in our book club to anybody else's. The Sunday book club, it's a conversation about a book, right? So, on that note, I just want to say, you know what's coming. I love you plenty.